The Pulaski Red Raiders Marching Band did not perform in Philadelphia today. No one did after organizers canceled the Salute to Independence Semiquincentennial Parade. Temperatures in the city soared 100 degrees with feels-like temperatures hitting over 110. Organizers earlier tried to save the event by shortening the route due to heat concerns, but ultimately it became too much.
The stage behind me on Independence Hall yesterday afternoon reached 117 degrees. We had workers out there who were not feeling well and getting faint and things like that. And when you think about young people coming and they're in marching band uniforms and they're, carrying instruments and military groups in uniform and things like that, we just couldn't do it in a way that we could guarantee people would be safe.
Our sister station in Philadelphia spoke with Pulaski's assistant director of bands. He says Pulaski got that personal invitation from the parade's organizer several years ago, and the kids prepared for more than 2 years.
When we started getting people on board, putting an ensemble together, April of this year of 26, we started rehearsals with snow still on the ground in Wisconsin. So, and then since then, it's been hours and hours of music rehearsal, marching rehearsal, cold, wet, hot, everything.
Well, they did not let it go to waste because the Pulaski Music Booster's social media page showed students making the best of it, streaming the performance earlier today. But the threat of that severe hot weather was real. One organizer told reporters an incident in Berks County, about 60 miles northwest, contributed to their decision to cancel. More than 100 people at an event there were treated for heat-related injuries, and nearly half of them had to be hospitalized.